What up, good people? My name is Kashaya. Hopefully, you can hear me. If not, I don't have a mic, so I don't know what to tell you. But I did want to come on here and share just a thought. Um, Earlier, I was scrolling through the comments of um, something, and this comment that I saw slightly sparked this rabbit hole of thoughts I went on. And I wanted to share it. So, um, it all really started off as far as like the rabbit hole I went down. I was driving and I was talking to God about different things. But one of the things that stood out to me was his focus while he was here on earth. And in the world today, there's so many people that talk about, hey CJ, that talk about um, becoming, right, or being um, something, striving to be something or to establish yourself as this or as that. And it's interesting as I was sitting just processing the life that God had on the earth is that, hey, everybody, um, to me, it doesn't seem like God, thank you for the hearts and emojis. To me, it doesn't seem like he spent his time trying to be anything. He just spent his time being. Like he spent his time on earth just simply being who he was. And you don't see him um, striving to be anything else but who God created him to be. And when I sat and actually reflected on that, it's interesting to see so many individuals who are always striving to be something else, to be this, to be that, but they're not actually being themselves or being who it is that God naturally created them to be. And the longer that I sat with that, it was interesting because even with the devil or Lucifer, right? While he was an angel in heaven with God, we see that his desire to be like God or to be more than who he already was naturally with Christ high, um, that led to him being kicked out of heaven. That led to him uh, getting something, but the thing that he got was not ultimately what he wanted, right? And we see that sadly even in certain industries, right? There's certain people that they want to be something else. They want to be this great thing or this large, this famous thing. And in the process of becoming this large person, this famous person, this world known individual, right? They realize that ultimately all of it wasn't worth it. Like there were some benefits to it. It has its perks, but in the grand scheme of things, all none of it was worth it, right? And we see that even with Satan's fall from heaven, right? His whole goal was to be like Christ, right? He wanted the praise and the worship and the same thing that God was getting, right? He wanted all of that for himself. But in his pursuit of trying to obtain that, he ended up getting kicked out of heaven. And it's interesting when we hear some of the stories or some of the testimonies of people who decided that they wanted to be something more than already the great talented individual that God created them to be, but their desire to be something more, something extra, right? In their pursuit of that, they overlook the fact that you can have what you want, but it's going to get you something else ultimately that you don't genuinely want. You don't really want this extra that comes with the deal of you being this great, famous, world known thing, right? And it made me kind of wonder or question, why is it that people struggle with just being? Like, why is the desire for more sometimes greater than the reality of what that more truly comes with? It's interesting how when somebody is hungry or desperate or determined, right? Because all of those things can sometimes look similar. But when someone embodies or possesses any of those things, you sometimes overlook the fact that what what you want, y'all, this wind blowing like crazy. You sometimes overlook that being or becoming this great thing, right, is also tied with so many of these ugly things. And because your desire or your desperation or your hunger for more, you end up being okay with accepting the dangers that's tied into that sometimes. And then it made me kind of jump down the rabbit hole of understanding why it was that God made the disciples get rid of everything to follow him. It's like, if you have nothing that you're holding on to, then you also have nothing to lose. You also have nothing that can be taken. You also have nothing that you can put above and before God, right? If you have nothing starting out on your mission, even if you had to give up everything just to take this walk with Christ, then there's nothing really that the enemy is going to be able to use against you besides tempting you with more, tempting you with desire, right? And when we look at how the enemy attacks us, let's say you went through one round, right? And the enemy was sending all these different attacks, whatever they may be, right? Whether it's, oh, I can make you rich, or oh, I can give you I can feel all your lustful desires, or oh, whatever it is that you desire, right? The enemy is going to tempt and test you with those things. But if you're able to complete round one where you get through it and you're like, nah, I'm going to deny all of these things, then what happens is he turns around and he gives you these same things. He tests you with these same things, but he wraps it in a different package. And so you end up realizing that a lot of the things the devil attacks you with are in cycles. But even when you sit and you look at the fact that um just the consistency, right, or the mindset of how the enemy attacks you, it's like he just keeps trying to beat you with the same thing, hoping and praying that eventually this one of these things that he's beating you with is going to open the door, and that's going to be the thing that he's going to be like, okay, now I got you. But when you endure, or you hold out, and it's like, nah, I don't want that, now I can do without that, now I don't need that, now I'm content with what I have, then he's not able to gain access or to gain foot in the things that you have. The comment that I saw, it was a lady talking about how in the 90s she was singing, right? Her gift or her talent. So her talent was already making room for her. She was singing in a group, and she was offered a contract deal, but the contract deals in the 90s were stating how basically she would own nothing. She would get no credit for her work, for her artistry. And it's interesting because I believe Jaguar was talking about something about how people are fighting for different things, or how Kendrick Lamar is fighting to save art. And that was interesting to me because certain things you don't have to fight for because they're going to live forever regardless, right? And I don't think that art has to be fought for to maintain, because really what the fight is that we're fighting to have clean art. And there's duality in everything. So I'm not saying the unclean art is, I maybe I am saying that. Maybe I really am saying that, because the Bible tells us that we have to cleanse, we have to purge the world from the unclean things. However, art is going to just be, just like God just is, everything else just is. But we spend so much time trying to be something else besides just being who God called us to be, that we don't even take full time and moments to reflect and appreciate everything that we naturally just are. Art is going to be forever. Art is everywhere. Whether or not people decide to utilize their art and feed it through the beast system to where, oh, I want to be famous and that's the only way my art is going to stand or mean something, which we're seeing that's false, right? It's being false. But we see now more than ever that it's definitely false, because people are waking up more, right? They're coming together more for things that matter. They're standing up against the system, right? People think, oh, you can beat Mammon with money. How are you going to beat a God that is all about money with money? The only way you're going to beat him with money is to not feed him your money. It's to not be so stuck in worshiping money. And people are seeing that, right? But even that was interesting, because when we look at the Sabbath, the day of rest that God intentionally put in his commandments, right? Where you don't spend any money, you don't cook, you don't work, you rest. Even in his commandments, there was already a day put in place where there was supposed to be no spending. Saturday, the Sabbath, your day of rest, whatever day you choose for rest, is already naturally implemented where you don't spend any money. You're literally resting. You're doing nothing. You are in a state of rest. But so many of us are just going. And we never take time to rest, because we've been programmed to believe that we have to spend so much energy becoming something other than what God already naturally created us to be. If you're art, the art is going to be in you regardless of whether you make it famous, regardless of whether you become the next industry. I'm gonna say puppet, because I wasn't the first person to say it. I guess I'm just the one who said it, and I don't know. I wasn't the first person to call people in the industry a puppet. Malcolm X called entertainers puppets as well. So I wasn't the first person to say that. However, I agree with the statement. Like, we are just naturally who we are. When you look at the Bible and it talks about um, darkness imitating light, when it's something natural, you don't have to imitate it. You just are. It just is. You don't have to imitate it. You just is. Everybody is talking about how can you discern or how can you tell a false prophet. Which one of y'all prophets are trying to be something that they're not? They're talking in ways that they weren't talking before. They're imitating the likeness of somebody else. Which one of the people that you see, that you follow, which one of them is switched up and is now trying to imitate or embody the essence, the likeness of somebody else, somebody else's gift? Darkness imitates light. I've seen so many people who have already had the spotlight on them because of the deals and the contracts that they've made. The spotlight has been on them. But for some reason, regardless if they're trolling or not, right? Why is it that they're imitating or copying the likeness of something or someone else if they naturally have their own light? Why is that? Why is that? You wouldn't have to. You don't have to. Like, your gift is individually your gift. So regardless of how somebody else does something, or regardless of who somebody else is, or how they present, or whatever the case may be, your gift is your gift. And you're the only person who can do your gift like you do your gift. That's it. Nobody else can do your gift like you do your gift. So it's never ever really a competition because there's only one you. But so many people are always competing for things that don't even really matter. They don't matter at all. If you see the lights flashing differently, it's because there's an officer circling the parking lot or something. I don't know what he's doing, but he's just circling the parking lot. So that was just some of the thought that I was having driving, but talking with God. Like, God didn't spend his time trying to become something. He spent his time here on earth just being who he was. And even when we consider the people that God hung out with, right? God hung out with the least likelies. And I've said that before, like God hanging out with the least likelies. He didn't hang out with people who were already in leadership. He didn't hang out with the people who supposedly already had all of the things, right? Even though those same people looked at him and knew that there was something different about him, who they knew that he walked with an authority and a purpose that they couldn't put their finger on, but they naturally, ended up having to respect because, well, he was doing something that they couldn't do. He was being something that they struggled to be because they were too focused on trying to tear him down. And even when we look at Satan, right? Satan was so busy trying to destroy or undermine who God was that he was the one who ended up getting kicked out. I was also sitting and thinking about how you hear people say, um, there's a spirit that comes over you when they do things, right? Talked about this before as well. But if that can happen throughout art, right, where there's just this spirit that takes over you. I saw a content creator talk about that as well. Some guy, I don't know if he was a musician as well, but um I don't know what type of art form he did, but he made that same statement, right? He was basically talking about how it's not us that are creating these things. It's something that comes over us, and then that's how the art or whatever is produced. But even if that is the case, if people are okay with allowing something to come upon them and use them to create these things that they want all of this praise and worship for, even though it's not even them that's doing it, right? And this has come from the individual's mouths. I can't say all of their mouths, but this has come from individuals who do art and do different things. They say it's just something that comes over me. So it's not even the individual that wants all the worship that's producing the art that supposedly is trying to be saved. But then there are some people that get mad or they try to say, well, why would you serve Christ or do this or do that? What's the difference between me serving Christ and you serving whatever it is that's coming over you to help you produce the art that you're producing? But for some reason, you're more bothered by the light or the peace and all these other things that I have from serving Christ, but you're not even truly happy with the deal that you made to produce the art that God was the one that gave you in the first place. And so it's like, how do you get to this place where you agreed to the contract? You agreed to this deal of put me in front of everybody. I want everybody to know my gift. I don't care what it costs me. Or maybe you got it and you didn't know the cost. But at one point, did you know the cost and you still said, I'm going to stay anyway instead of getting out? You spend 30, 40, however many years underneath this contract knowing that it does not result in the real thing that you genuinely desire. But then you hate on the people, or you dislike, or you try to tear down the people who are in relationship with Christ, and maybe they had to go through some things as well. Maybe it's definitely not the same things that you had to go through, but different things, right? Maybe even the gifts or the blessing or the favor shows up differently. However, both ends you had to go through something. It's just a different result depending on which end you chose to take. When really all you had to do was just do your art if that's what you like. The art is never gonna die. There's always gonna be artists. No one is saying the art needs to die. No one is saying, oh, if you want to rap, don't rap. But what are you rapping about? Is it of substance, or are you just spitting out stuff to destroy the community? And then you get mad when the community realizes that, well, it's your art that's been helping tear down the community. It's not the art that we're trying to get rid of. The art is, it just is. People and their gifts just are. Yeah, you have to use them so they can grow, they get stronger. But when I was sitting here reflecting on the life of Christ, he just was. He just was. Even when you look at the people in the Bible who he used, all of them were different. All of them had their own unique flaws, but they just were who they were. They didn't spend their whole time trying to be something or someone else. They showed up in their flaws and all. All of them. Moses, Elijah, the disciples, Peter, all of them showed up naturally in their flaws. They did not strive to be someone else. They showed up as themselves, and God used them as they were. That was just a thought. Just a thought. Hey y'all, I'm scrolling through the comments. Yes, love God. I'm not visible. Smile real big. Am I LeBron? Absolutely not. Free the dealer, definitely wrong channel. Lock that nigga up. I mean, excuse me, father, not the N word. Lock him up. Um, Madison, I need to be safe. I'm safe with God. Okay, Mitch, I don't know what you're talking about. Thank you. Okay. I graduated with a finance degree, and so many of my professors speak about golden handcuffs. Very interesting, Mariah. Yep, exactly. Make so much money but are extremely miserable. I learned the best way to achieve things in life is to not be like everyone else. Being someone that the world wants you to be rather than what God wants you to be removes peace from the heart. Yep. I definitely agree with you. People want things so bad and don't realize they are selling their souls. I've seen it so much in the finance world. And I learned that these prophets had flaws, and I think that is a beautiful thing that God has shown us. Absolutely. Mitch, I don't really know what you're talking about, but I don't know what you're talking about, Mitch. But yeah, Mariah, I agree. I think that's what is exactly what we're seeing so much of in the world today. It's like basically everything that glitters is not gold. Everything that glitters is not gold. But I think mm, mm. I don't know. I think the most interesting thing is like when you really take time to just kind of sit down and be still. And at first, when I started doing stuff like that, it used to be hard for me. It's gotten a little more comfortable now. It's still a struggle sometimes. Uh, Cause one, I'm just my mind is just going always, and then two, we're brought up to believe that we have to always be doing something, that we have to always be striving to uh become something, right? Okay, great. You pass one level, you finish high school. Okay, what's next? Are you going to college? Okay, well, after you finish college, are you going back to college to get a master's degree? Oh, okay, you finish your master's degree. Well, now you got to go back and get your PhD. So it's like they're always pushing us to just be so consumed with becoming something when God already established us to be who we are. And sometimes when you sit still and you actually indulge yourself in doing the things that you enjoy, more so doing the things sometimes that you have to do, you end up realizing what it is that you truly, truly like in the first place. Like some people don't even really, really know what they like or what they want because they have spent so much of their time stressed out about becoming this thing. And so then when they see other people who are just naturally themselves and they have this peace or they have this joy that they don't have or don't know how to obtain, it's like, yeah, you're different and it looks good, but I don't like that. So it's like I have to destroy or tear you down. And that's a lot of how the world has become now. Like I sit sometimes with myself and I say, I ask God, like, what was it that you saw in us and people that you felt the need to sacrifice your son? And I don't ask him because uh, of a judgment or anything like that. I ask because I genuinely want to understand. As a person that has been here for the time that I have been here on this earth, um, the last 4 years of my life has been the most interesting. Like prior to this whole stalking thing and being watched and uh, mocked by people that other people idolize and feel like, oh, they can do no wrong because of their art or because of their talent. And these are the same people who are admitting that something else comes over them sometimes for them to produce this same said art. It's like, what did you see in people to feel like they were worth sacrificing your life for? And I ask that question because sometimes it's hard, not impossible, but sometimes it's hard to continue to love people who spend their entire day trying to persecute you and you minding your business. It's really hard to do sometimes, but when I remind myself that that's the devil trying to find another way to beat down the door to be able to say, oh, he got access, like, you can't give in to that. It's a cycle. He's just really just trying to find an avenue to say, okay, now I got this person exactly where I want to be. But sometimes I really sit and think about that. Like, even some of the angels, like the Old Testament, when you read through the Old Testament and you see God and how he was dealing with things, how he dealt with the people. And then you get to the New Testament and it's like, hmm. I remember when God first had me start speaking, just sharing the things that I have been learning through my relationship with Christ. And I would sit and wonder why so many people will be mad, talk about God. It's not just a God of love and this, and that. And it was because I should have had more uh, time in certain areas of the word. And so now that I've spent that time, it's like, okay, I see why some people were so frustrated or why some people were so mad, because how God presents himself in the Old Testament is God had time for all the smoke. The angels had time for all the smoke. They had time for it. They stayed ready for it. Like, even when you see some of the people in the Old Testament who are asking God, to spare the people or to um God, even if it's just one. Like, sometimes I really have to sit with myself like, God, could I have been that person? Could that would that have been me in that position? Moses, the people hated Moses. And Moses was still finding it somewhere within himself to say, but God, these are your people. These are your people. Like, how would you look if you turned around and you wiped all of them out after you said you were going to bring them all out from the bondage that they were in? But then you turn around and wipe them all out. But it was interesting. God he still didn't wipe all of them out. He definitely still wiped out the ones who um they weren't listening, they weren't getting it, their hearts were still hardened, right? He definitely still wiped out those ones who were contending against him, right? They still got wiped out. They thought they was about to eat. God said, no. But I sit and wonder sometimes, like, when you are consistently being under pressure in certain ways, it does almost make you want to get to the point where you be like, forget it. I've had to have conversations with God about things, and I'm like, God, could I be that? Could I be that way? Could I be that person who be like, God, just spare this place if it's just one? And sometimes it'd be like, God, you are the God of fire. Burn it up, burn it up. They're not listening. Burn it down. I really burn it. Start it all over. Burn it down. I really be saying it like, light it up. Set it off. Whatever you got, do it. But then I sit. I really do. But then I be sitting here like, God, what is it that I'm missing? What is it that I need to see that made you be like, I'm a spare him? And I can't even say him, because sometimes it was just the prophet. Sometimes it was the people that God sent the angels to cover, right? The people who were connected to the prophets. He would send angels to, go get them, because they would pray and be like, well, go get such and such, or blah blah blah, such and such came with me. And I really be thinking sometimes, like, what was it? Show me. Help me to see that even in the midst of the persecution that I'm experiencing right now. Help me to see what it is, what it was that made you say, even if it's just 3, even if it's just 5, even if it's just one family, what was it? Because sometimes I look at the world today, I look at the people in it who take so much pride and joy in being so ugly to people. But then when the shoe is turned, it's like, oh no, I wouldn't do that to such and such. You wouldn't do it now because you're experiencing something similar, just in a different way. But you had no problem being the stone that was thrown at somebody else. But now that said someone is like, up, God's will is manifesting in your life, it's like, oh, I wouldn't do that. You were just doing it though, and you had no problem doing it. But now that you're experiencing a piece, not even the whole cake, but a piece of what you see somebody else enduring, and enduring it to the best of their ability, it's like, oh, woe is me. Now I'm struggling. Now I want to crash out. This is just phase 1 of how the enemy could and would attack you and break you down, and you crashing out already. You struggling on phase 1 of giving up something to focus and serve God. You're looking at the struggle that you're going through, and you ready to crash out, but you ain't said, God, I thank you that even though I've lost this, I still have you. You're looking at the struggle that you're experiencing, and you're not able to praise God still in the midst of it. But you were able to open your mouth and tear down somebody else. You can't praise God in the midst of your struggle. You just want to crash out automatically. It's too much for you to bear. It's too much for you to bear. There go a truck and the people that I be talking about that love to ride around me just to make them little stupid noises with their cars. But that's what I see a lot of today in the world. And that's why I just, mm, mm. It's interesting how when you are experiencing the same thing that you took pride in somebody else experiencing, but now when it's on your foot, it's now, don't step on my feet. But you were just stumping and stepping and rejoicing and celebrating the harvest that you saw somebody else reaping, being funny. But now that you're reaping, you're ready to crash out. Why? Why? Job had everything taken away from him, and he still had oil in his mouth to praise God. His friends looked at him and said, you must be doing something wrong. And Job said, no, it wasn't me. I didn't do anything. But his friends looked at the condition of his situation and said, you must have angered God. And the whole time they were watching him, thinking that he angered God and he deserved what it was that he was reaping. He was reaping and enduring all of it because God was showing out and showing off one of his strongest soldiers. God was flexing, using Job's struggle. And the whole time, everybody was like, you ain't doing right. You can't be doing right. You can't be pleasing God the way that you struggling, the way that you taking all of these losses. He lost his family. He lost his business. He lost his animals. He lost everything. And the people around him said, you did something wrong. This was your doing. And the whole time it was God's doing. Because he was proving to Satan that you can take everything away from my children. You can take everything away from the people who serve me. And not only will they endure and still be able to give praise to me, still be able to love me, but once you finish all your tests and trials, I'm going to give them everything back plus. Not just give it back. I'm going to give him everything back plus some. And some of y'all are crashing out on the first phase of being tested. And you wonder why somebody else and not you. But you're struggling on round one. Do you got a Job in you? We sit here and we look at all of these people in the world that we want to emulate or that we want to be like. Could you be like Job? Could you endure loss after loss after loss after loss and still know that God is worthy to be praised? Still know that God's hand is on your life, even if you can't see it because of the losses at the moment? Could you still see? Could you still see God? Could you imagine if Job would have gave in at the first loss that he endured? He would have never reaped what God had for him because he failed at the first loss. Y'all are losing things that, yeah, they might help or benefit your livelihood, but did you lose your life? Are you still breathing? Do you still got some fight in you for tomorrow? You mad about the food stamps? You mad about a job? You can get another job. It might not be immediately because the economy is jacked up right now. But what's in your hands that you can use until you find something else? But if you are crashing out at phase one, are you going to make it through phase two? If this is just phase one of the storm, and maybe you can't find a job right now, maybe you've been applying, but there's nothing moving. Can you be like God in the midst of the storm and be still and know that the storm is not going to take you out? No, you just going to crash out instead. That's what you're going to do. God just was. His desire was not to be anything else than who he was. And he had a heart for the least likelies. hmm He would rather spend his time in the company of those that didn't have as much, of those who didn't look like or act like the leaders around him, or that continued to attack and persecute him and continued to try to find ways to tear him down or to set him up. He didn't spend a lot of time around those people. He spent time around people who other people would naturally want to spend time with. That says a lot. To be God, to have that type of authority, that type of power, that type of influence, right? Because that's what part of this fight is. Part of the fight is one group is trying to maintain their influence over you, and the other group is trying to set you free from the influence that's choking you out. That's why some of you are going through things right now and you don't know how to withstand, because the influence that's been over your life has been telling you for years and years and years and years and years that if you don't have, you're nothing. And so now that you're losing the thing that made you something, you crashing out because, oh, what am I going to do? I don't fit the standard. I can't get validated if I don't have a job, if I don't have this money, if I don't have the food stamps. I can't do this. I can't. And this is not me being insensitive to the thing that you're going through. This is me shedding light on what's going on. If you are struggling and crashing out on phase one, phase two gonna take you out all the way. Because it doesn't get easier in these last days. It gets worse. And some of you have spent so much time under the wrong influence, and you wonder why you don't have no staying power in the storm. Why you crashing out already, the first wind gust. And then Jesus started to walk on the water, and he was just like, peace, be still. Why are you freaking out? Why didn't you just tell the storm to be still? You were too busy looking at the storm instead of keeping your eyes on me and just walking on the water. Sometimes I've experienced that myself. I will be so ugh at some of the things that I go through because of just the nastiness in people. Instead of realizing that despite all of those things, God has still kept me. He's still been a father that's been guiding and navigating me. He hasn't failed me, and I hope I haven't failed him. The fact that I can go through all of these things, y'all, it's people walking around the area that I'm sitting in. That's why you see me looking around. But the fact that I can go through these different trials and these different tests, and yes, I have my days, I have my moments where it's like, God, come on. But I keep pushing. Even if how I'm pushing is not pleasing man, my job as a believer in Christ is not to please man. Because my job is a believer in Christ and somebody who desires to have a relationship with Christ, somebody who desires to hear, well done, even if I struggle through or limp through doing it, I know that the job description entails that I'm going to be hated by man. I'm going to be hated by those who allow darkness to use their vessels for its purpose. I'm going to be fought by individuals who want to maintain their sphere of influence over you because, well, it's written in the contract that that's what they need to do. And so when they lose that control or that influence over you, well, now they got to go and raise up somebody else that's willing to maintain or that's able to regain that influence over you. Because they need to keep that. Yeah, they don't want you to be able to break free from that. They want you to stay stuck under their influence. Nobody's trying to kill the art. Art is just going to be. There will always be somebody who can paint, who can draw, who can sing, who can dance, who can play instruments. There's so many people. The thing comes in with what and who are you using that gift to glorify? Are you glorifying darkness with your gift? Or are you glorifying the light? Are you under the influence of darkness? Or are you under the influence of light? Are the people who have your ear and are able to influence and feed you, are they imitating light but are full of darkness? And you're struggling to see it because, well, I'm going to stand beside them. I'm connected to their altars. I done fasted with these people too much. I'm going to stand right here. Our praise, our worship, our fandom. We want to be fans so bad. Our fandom, that energy is supposed to go to God. That's it. That's it. I'm not telling you don't appreciate art. That don't even make sense. What I'm telling you, what I'm sharing with you is God created all of this, all the gifts. But it's up to you to determine how you choose to use your gift, how you choose to be, right? Because God just was. He just was. But he chose to be focused on the Father's business. And some of us, we have a desire to be more or to be something else so much that we don't realize, we don't understand that our desire has turned us into something else. We have gone outside of ourselves and outside of the will of God to become something that maybe God didn't intend us to be. We were perfect as we were. We were loved as we were. And I'm not saying if you were full of sin and all of these different things, because when we are full of sin, yes, we have the ability to come to Christ. But when we continually choose to be sinful, we're basically disrespecting God's entire sacrifice for us. We're disrespecting his whole sacrifice. Could you imagine telling somebody, I'm glad you hung on the cross, but then sitting there and believing that this is a person that serves and follows Christ that needs to be prayed for? You came out your mouth directly and said, I'm glad he hung on the cross. Oh, we gotta pray for them. Oh, why? Because this person said we gotta pray for them. And they only told you to pray for them because they saw what your prayers did for something just. Why do we keep praying for people who continue to blatantly disrespect the sacrifice that our Father made? Oh, he's not fighting for that. He's fighting to save art. Art don't need to be saved. Art don't need to be saved. Industry needs to be needs to be corrected. It needs to be corrected. Even the people in the industry are saying, yeah, we wanted to get here, but we didn't want all the extra stuff that came with it. We didn't want all these rituals and sacrifices. We didn't want to do all of that. But I mean, we here now, so we can't get out. But I mean, the only way we get out is we die, and we ain't ready to die, so we just got to keep doing this stuff. They're saying that. Are you listening? We all got to make a choice, and we're either gonna choose light or you're gonna choose darkness. Whom are you gonna serve? But if you haven't given your life to Christ yet, then it's a great time to do so. Ask him into your heart. He wants a personal relationship with you. He wants a personal relationship with you. Some of these leaders that you've been following, they're flawed. They go through their rounds as well. The devil trying to get to them. Some of them the devil done already got to. And you sitting under them, listening to them, and you don't realize that some of them are sometimes cursing you as they're supposed to be preaching to you. You don't realize that some of their very altars are not even dedicated to Christ. They're dedicated to demons and devils because, well, they serve mammon. That's why they can get up there and ask you out of their mouth with no shame for $200,000. That's why they can get in the pulpit with no shame and say, well, all I got to do is repent. You mean to tell me that you supposedly read that book and you're in a position that you're in and you feel like the only thing you would have to do is repent? That's all you got to do. You ain't got to be ye separate. You ain't got to apologize to your congregation. You ain't got to do none of that. You just got to repent. That's it. Yeah. Some of them altars are not even dedicated to Christ. And you're putting your prayers on them. You're trusting this shepherd. And where they leading you is not even to the right pasture. But because they look like the world, because they tell you stuff that feel good. I seen them type of comments. Well, thank you for making us feel good. We're not supposed to feel good doing the wrong thing. It's supposed to feel bad. It's not supposed to be comfortable. Just some thoughts that I was having. that I decided I wanted to share myself versus, people judging other people's thoughts, which the word tells us we're not supposed to do, but such is life. But that was a little rabbit hole I went down. You can't kill what is. And even when you think you've killed it, it rises still, just as Christ did. They thought they killed Christ when they nailed him to the cross, but he rose again. And that's how you have to look at the different things that might come down the pipeline concerning the things that have been taken away, concerning things that you have been able to benefit from for so long. You have to be able to look at it and say, so what if they take it? I'm going to rise still. So what if this is the only message I got? I'm going to say it still. So what if you don't like me? I'm going to like myself still. Some of you don't even like yourself because you're too busy still wanting other people to like you. And some of you don't like yourself because I don't think you can tell the difference between somebody wanting validation from somebody and somebody wanting people to leave them the heck alone. I don't look for validation from people to validate who I am as an individual. Only God can do that. Only God can do that for you. People can congratulate and appreciate the work or the art or the skill that you have, but only God can validate you. hmm The praises of man is deadly. It's going to cost you something. And we saw a glimpse of that, right? We saw a glimpse of that because what happened is the people who have gotten so accustomed to praises of men, when those same men turned on them and was judging them or asking them questions or challenging them to be better and to do differently, well, what did they naturally resort to? Wanting to fight, right? Oh, you gotta respect me. Oh, you gonna respect the work and the time. And are you God? No, you're not God. They weren't God. But as soon as they got a little taste of those same people who were once worshiping and praising them, saying, "Nah, we not cool with this anymore." Oh, they was up in a frenzy, right? Y'all recall that? Praises of men is deadly. Lust and love of money is deadly. Yeah, people kill over money. Money, it's a tool. It's a tool. There are things in this life and in this world that are greater than your money. But for some people, their status financially is all they know, all they desire. That's all they want. Because the status comes with praises of men. But if men were truly focused on Christ, they would not be praising men. They would be praising Christ. And that is why the praises of men is deadly. It's costly. Because God is a jealous God. And the same men who are able to praise you will be the same men the next day that are willing and able to tear you down because you allowed yourself to feel like somebody because other people were praising and worshiping you instead of praising God. And well, now when those same people who validated you started to take their praises away, well, you didn't like the feeling of it because you allowed man to validate you when had you allowed God to do it, you wouldn't have signed no crappy deal. You wouldn't have took the deal. You wouldn't be running from death. You wouldn't be afraid to take a stand and say, I'm not giving my gifts and talents to you any longer. There are some people with gifts and talents who could have been way further than what they are. But they're sitting up under people who put a cap on their potential. So it's like, I'm going to give you just enough to shine a little bit, but you'll never shine more than me. There are some people who, when you actually think about the gifts and the talents that they have, should have been way further than what they are right now. Should have got a way better deal than what they signed. They had the talent before the contract. They had the skill. They had the grit. It was just naturally in them. And they signed the contract, perverted themselves, over sexualized themselves. And now they're stuck under a cap, under surveillance. Because, oh, I saw your gift and I saw the potential in you before it was fully developed. And because I saw the potential in you before you allowed it to be fully developed naturally under God's way, well, I'm going to give you just enough to feel like you've made it and you're successful. But you'll never be more successful than me because, well, I don't allow anyone to do that. Even though there are definitely other people who are way more talented. You were one of them. Still could be, but you're going to have to wait until, well, your mentor is done. That's why you can't link up with everybody, even if they look like a great option. Sometimes they only look that way because, well, they want to drain and feed off of you. They look like a good deal. But then when you sign the contract, it's really just a happy meal. Just be who God created you to be. Detach yourself from feeling like the world has to validate you. The world has to accept your job, your finances. You have to be like the world. You just have to be you. And whatever glory that shows up in, you have to be you and you have to strive to walk with Christ to the best of your ability. And as you walk, He'll guide and refine you. That's it. That's all. Let me see this. See. Hold on. Going through the comments. Yep, Mariah, God still loves us. Yep. Yep. Oh, thanks, Mariah. Lil Reaper. I've heard that a few times before. Mariah, that is deep as well because sometimes we can think that uh, what we have is not enough. Is that the fast bopping song? Reincarnated, life goes on. I need all my babies. Some. Uh, I don't listen to all of his stuff because I like his talent. Um, no, not that one. I'll have to look that up then. I like his talent. Well, one thing I realized about his gift is it's very, 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 very layered. And so he'll say one thing on the surface, but it's like five things wrapped into it. Like it's one thing. I didn't watch this halftime show. I didn't watch the halftime show, but I did think it was very interesting because I don't remember many times that people in the industry have all came out as they have been lately during this light versus darkness kind of fight that's been going on. Um, but I don't listen to him all the time. Some of his stuff that I catch, I might dive into a little bit, but I don't listen to stuff all the time. But he says stuff, and it's like five to six, seven things wrapped all in it. And the thing that I do like about it though is the fact that he can do that, and he does it in his own unique way. So I do like that, but I don't listen to him like that. But I'll have to check out Reincarnated Mariah since you suggested it. I can believe that, but I think the one of the interesting things about it is like um after a while, what else can they really talk about, you know? Because it's like they obtain so much and they have so much, and it's like I'm assuming at that level, the only other thing you can't really talk about is your possessions, because I don't know. I guess how would you look talking about things like I don't know. I don't even know how to explain the thought that I'm having right now concerning that. Like the way I just thought to state it is not a good, clean way to say it. But I guess it's more like ego, because now it's like a competition of who has the shiniest thing or the biggest thing, and so or the newest or the latest thing. Because what else would make them special? Because you're already amongst other people who also have the wealth or the affluence. So the only other thing that would make you stand out from other wealthy or affluent people is what newest, latest, shiny thing that you have that you think the other rich, wealthy person doesn't have. So then it becomes a, a competition of vanities, essentially. And it's like, oh yeah, well that Maybach is cool, but did you see this Maybach I got? And I just put, it's just a competition of vanities at that point, because you've acquired everything, you've had a taste for everything. But then I guess the dangers of it comes in where you start acquiring different tastes for different things, because well, you've already had everything, right? And we can see that even with the case of old boy. I, and I guess I can't call him an old boy because he is an older man, but male. However, the things that he's in court for or whatever, wherever he at, the things that he's going through right now is because his taste, I'm sure the richer and the wealthier he got, started to change, right? He already had everything else. Well, what else can I do? What else can I have now that I haven't had or that other people haven't had or that's not normal? Like, what else can I obtain or desire or get away with, because I've already done all of these other things? So now I want to, dibble dabble into this. That's what we see. It's like I've gotten all these other little shiny gadgets and medals and bells and whistles. What can I get into now? That's what we see. Where you see him directly say that? I did see an interview though. It was a while ago. I reposted it on my page, but it was a while ago where a guy showed a clip. He was doing the interview, and I thought it was a really interesting interview only because I was just kind of watching. Uh, I don't know, like the read I had from him, looking at him in that interview versus now or today. Like I can see why you where you got that from. I can definitely see where you got that from. Because, like, even in some of the little snippets or pieces that I gather from some of the things he says, like, I can see, I can see where you gather that from. Yeah, if he's going to follow Christ, he is going to have to leave that behind. But that's if that's what he wants to do. That's if he's able to do it. Because you see so many people sometimes when they say you can't get out, or they've been talking about that lately, right? Where you can't get out. Like, there's only a few ways to get out, supposedly. So maybe he'll have a DMX experience. Maybe. I don't listen to Drake either. You know what's funny? I don't know if I've ever been. There's really only like one person I can say like I would probably like look for their stuff when I used to be like into all of the things. But outside of that, no. If he wasn't really on the radio, I didn't. I ain't know. I'm not a music head, and it would be so funny because I would meet so many people and they'd be like, "You're not a music head." I'm like, "No, I'm not a music head." But it's just so much stuff. Who, Drake or Kendrick? What are you talking about? Oh, that's pretty dope. What does your dad play? Or what does he do as far as music? Oh, on Buried Alive he talks about that. Oh, nice. Okay, so listen to Reincarnated from Kendrick and Buried Alive by Drake. I think I vaguely remember a bassoon. I think I maybe only seen it once. Is that a real big? Is it like a real big instrument? I'm gonna have to look that up. Was it only played by certain people before? Hmm. I'm gonna have to look it up. I think I know the instrument you're talking about, but I have to Google it and re-look it up. Do you play instruments as well? Hey, well, at least you know that though. Ooh, okay, nothing wrong with that. I be trying to sing. I know I can't, but I sing anyway. I be messing up all the words to people's song. I know they be like, "A girl just shut up." I be trying. I don't know. I don't be knowing all the words. Certain songs I know the words to, but I don't be knowing all the words. I sometimes I be making it up, filling it in. You gotta have filler words. I can't sing it all. What do you sing? Alto, soprano, tenor? You too. Is your mother musical too? Soprano. Ooh, high notes. High notes. I got way too much junk in my car. No, just your dad's side. One of my sisters can sing. She sang. Was she soprano? I think maybe she was alto. I really don't know. But she's a singer. I think she's a alto though. I don't think she's soprano. Oh, it is cold. This weather is so flip flop. It was all sunny and nice earlier. Now it's all cold. I don't know why I got that drink. Cause I knew I wasn't gonna drink it. It's freezing. Freezing, y'all. What's the temperature where y'all at? Mariah and everybody else, thanks for tuning in and engaging. You can still be cute and freezing. You can be cute and freezing. But it is definitely nippy. Oh, thank you. It says it's 49 degrees here, but it don't feel like no 49 degrees outside. At least that's what my car say. My car says 49 degrees, but it don't feel like 49 degrees. Fast and Furious. I look forward to seeing more videos. Oh, thank you, Mariah. Now, let me give you a disclaimer, Mariah, because I be on here, but I don't be on here all the time. I would tell you I'm trying to do better, but I speak when I feel like God gives me something to talk about, and outside of that, I be quiet. So I'm trying. I ain't trying. I just speak when I feel like I should speak. Jesus does help me. I hope he helps you too. Whoever, what'd you say? Blog, ABK. Da-na-na-na-na. 26. Goodness gracious. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Well, thank you for joining. I'm about to call it a night soon. And hopefully you all have a great night as well. Oh, how cool. I appreciate that. Reincarnated and buried alive. I'll have to look them two up. Thank you as well. God bless also. You have a great night.